Hello again, gamers. Welcome back to the Board Game Captain. I'm the Captain.
I'm Lynn.
And today we're going to be talking about and telling you about Merchants of Magic, a game designed by Clarence Simpson. So I want to give a big thank you to the publisher, Rock Manor Games, who gave us this free review copy of Merchants of Magic to be able to check out and play and film some content with. So thank you, Rock Manor Games. And before we get too into this review, I do want to say I've got a ton of links in the description down below that you can check out at your leisure. There's a link to BoardGameCaptain.com, which is a great hub for all things Board Game Captain. There's also a link to my Teespring store if you'd like to get yourself some cool Board Game Captain merch, t-shirts, mugs, etc. And there's a link to my Patreon if you're in a position to and would like to support the channel. All right, so Merchants of Magic. Lynn, why don't you take us away with the stats there?
1 to 8 players.
So we haven't tried it at the solo mode, not big solo gamers, but I could see how this could be fine as a solo game because there's almost no player interaction.
Yeah, you're just trying to, I guess, beat your high score.
Yeah, and I mean, player interaction wise, the only thing in multiplayer games that there's any real interaction with is maybe completing the order of a customer that your opponent wanted to complete before it got around to them. But other than that, there's really not a lot of player interaction in this.
Yeah. 45 to 60 minutes.
This is a decent estimate, maybe even a little high.
Well, I wonder if the more players maybe would be longer.
Not really, because most of the actions are done simultaneously. Which means that the only thing that would make it longer with more players is if you added a player that had a lot of analysis paralysis. But other than that, as long as everybody's going at roughly the same speed, more players is not actually going to mean a longer game with this. But 45 to 60 minutes is actually a pretty good, it's a decent estimate, but I would have given it like 30 to 60 minutes. Because I think once you get experience, you can really come in below that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I mean, there should probably be a fairly wide variety here because you can get someone who has analysis paralysis. But here, let me hand that back to you.
Ages 13 plus.
Yes. I'm going to say yes. What are your thoughts? I don't want to take it right back from you.
I know. You just keep on. Yeah, that seems fine.
Yeah, I was going to say that there's a fair amount going on. It's not that it's super complicated. It's just a lot to keep track of. Though you do write everything down. But do you agree that's a good estimate? All right, let's have a look at what comes in the box. I do want to call attention to this really gorgeous cover art because I really like that a lot. Gives you the idea that you are in a magical market of sorts. Because the whole idea with this game is every player is a merchant who is selling magical items in a market, and you have to be able to make the items that the customers want. I'm going to give you your sheet from a couple of the games we played here so we can talk about that in a bit. But first off, in the components, we have the rule book. Now, the rule book is fairly well done. It's fairly short. It's only about, do they even number the pages in here? Not really. Let's see. So we got there's nothing really on the cover there. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Including the solo mode, 7 pages. There are some diagrams to help you understand how things work. No real complaints with the rules. I was able to go through it very quickly and then teach other people. So yes, very well done. The next thing we have in the box is this wonderful, wonderful pad for the game because this is a roll and write game. And this is a lot, as you can see. You can get a lot of plays out of this, and each of them are two-sided. We actually have here some pages we saved from our last 2 games of this. You can see what completed pages look like. We're going to talk more about that in a little bit. Why don't you pull some components to talk about?
You have 4 pencils.
Now, you always say you like that games that have you write come with pencils, just so you literally don't need anything else.
Right, but it only comes with 4, and the player count can go up to 8.
Yeah. Okay, but
and these are like the stupid little pencils that.
But who doesn't have pencils? Which is my thing always. Everybody has pencils.
And you have the dice, a D6, a D8, a D12, a D10, and a D12.
Why don't you show those up a little closer to the camera here so we can show it? They're just standard polyhedrals like you would get in a role-playing day set.
And you got some little potions.
Those are cool. I like them because they have different colors. The colors don't mean anything in a normal game, but in a larger size game, they can mean different values. Like you can use them for multiple potions, but they're little chunky wooden potions, and they're pretty awesome. Let me pull one out to show, just because I really like the look of these said potions here. Let me show you one of these here, so we can get the camera to focus in on it. There we go. Huh?
I covered my face so it wouldn't focus on me.
That's not going to work, Lynn. That's not how that works.
It is.
No, that is not. That is not how that works. It focuses on whatever's close to it, not just faces. All right, so just to show you some of the kind of cards we have here. These are the market cards, which are orders. You get orders for specific items. So here you have the Shield of the Orcs as an order. We have the Divine Ring. Here's a really expensive order. Fiery Warhammer of the Dwarves. Now, to be able to fill these orders, you do have the main game mechanics are fulfilling the ability to make every part of it. So that Fiery Warhammer of the Dwarves, you have to be able to make a Warhammer, which is under weapons here. And then you have to make the enchantments Fiery and of the Dwarves to be able to complete that. We're going to talk a little more about that in a minute. And then other kinds of cards, we just have a couple more. We have specific customers here that you can be, I think they're called sponsored customers that have multiple orders on them. Everybody gets one of these. And then we have the masteries. They're material and spell masteries that are ways to get extra points. And we're going to briefly talk about that. So that's basically everything in here. That's everything that comes in the box. Now we're going to talk about how the game plays a bit, but we're not going to do a full tutorial because it's a roll and write. And it's difficult to fit kind of everybody's pad and what they're writing in the camera and really make it look interesting, even though it is interesting. I do like this game. We're going to instead just kind of describe how this game goes. So you set up the game, you shuffle up the decks. The deck of order cards goes out in the middle of the table. The sponsoring customers, everybody gets one of those, and each one needs 3 things with a particular enchantment. So to give you an example of a sponsoring customer, I'm going to just grab one real quick to go over kind of how they work. I've got the warrior. He says he wants a grimoire of the dwarves, a crossbow of the dwarves, and a bracers of the dwarves. So all of them have the same enchantment of the dwarves. So that's going to be an enchantment if you got him, you're going to really want. Whereas, for instance, if you had gotten the wizard, he wants the shocking ring, the shocking crossbow, and the shocking greaves. So again, you'd specifically want to go for the shocking enchantment. Then we deal up 2 random masteries, 1 material and 1 research. And what those are, 1 material and 1 energy. And what those are is that each column is a different either material or type of magic. So the materials are steel, wood, and leather. The magic is elemental, arcane, or wild. So it'll give you a specialty of one of those, and the first person to fulfill the amount on it, for instance, the woodsman, to fulfill it, you need 5 in the wood column. You would get 8 points, and then you flip it over. And on future turns, anyone else can fulfill it for half points for 4 points. That's one way to get points in the game. And then that's basically it, and you're ready to go. You write down the name of your shop. I had a shop called Fitzgerald's Fey Items and Fizzy Drinks. What was your favorite name of your shops?
I had one silly name and one like more serious name.
Well, which one did you like better? You tell us.
I like them both.
Well, then what are they?
Okay, so my silly one is Glamour Goblin Goods and Gruel.
That was a good name. I liked that one.
That was the first game. And the second game, I decided to be more serious, a serious entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. And it was Wintermint Apothecary. Very
good. So once you're set up, you're ready to go. And the game goes through 10 rounds of rolling and writing. Now, the actual rounds and their rolls are kept track of over here on the top of your sheet. What happens is one player is going to roll the 4 dice. You have, again, D6, D8, D10, D12. And you write them down under the round heading. And then every player is able to choose 2 of those dice for free and get them to qualify for some of the circles to fill in. So as you can see here, we have lots of filled in circles, but to show you what they were before they were filled in, I'm going to show you the blank pad here. As you can see, they each have numbers in them. And the numbers on the material side will be a number with a little arrow on top of it going up. And the numbers on the magic side will be the number with a little arrow under it going down. And the reason for that is To get a material, you need to get a die of one of the types above that column. I'm going to show you here. They show the dice above the column, what dice can be used for that column. And it needs to be that number or higher. So if it says 4 up, that's a 4 or better. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever it might be. Because again, with that 4 up that I was looking at was in a column for leather, which could use D6, D8s, or D10s for it. Now on the energy side, it needs to be that number or lower. So it is the reverse. You fill in your circles with 2 of your dice, yes? Mm-hmm. Now on some turns, you can use more than 2 dice. Again, up to the total of 4. And there is an area for extra dice in this area here of the sheet. The first 3, as you can see, have no cost. The bottom 3, though, start costing you more and more potions. The first one of the bottom 3 costs 2 potions, then 3, then 4. So the first 3 are going to be completely free, but then it will cost you more. And generally speaking, these are, at least the free ones, are good to use early to try to get, control over making a lot of these things quickly. Now, when you fully make something, for instance, the backpack is one of the easiest things to make because you can use a D6, a D8, or a D10 that is any number 3 or greater, and it only requires that one circle. I'm going to show that real quick there. There is one circle for the backpack, and it is a 3 or greater on any of those dice. Once you have fully made it, you circle the coin at the end of the line, and that's points for the end of the game. And then you can make anything that requires a backpack, as long as you have whatever else it requires. And for completing the line, you get a free potion. And again, those potions are one of the things you can do with them is to use to get extra dice. And then the other thing you can do with them, which is very important, is you can use them to alter the number of the dice just for you. Not for everybody, but for you. So like you were 1 away from getting that 6+, it was a 5. Now you can spend 1 potion and make it a 6, right? And you can now get it and qualify for that circle. Basically, you spend this big part of the round filling in circles. Then you see which of the items in front of you, depending on the number of players, everybody gets a number of items in front of you. At 4 players, everybody has 4 items in front of them. At all the way up to when you're at like 7 or 8 players, everyone only has 2 items in front of you. You get to a part of the round where you can qualify for any of those. So if it is, the sword, the fiery sword, you need to have the fiery enchantment and the sword item. Thank you. And you can qualify for that. You get the sword. You put it in front of you. And you get the points, the coinage on that sword. Once you have fiery and once you have sword, those will qualify for anything that require that, including for your specific customer and for the sponsored adventurers. That's what I meant. For your sponsored adventurer, they have 3 things you need to get for them, and each one of them gives you extra stuff. The first time you complete one of their orders, you gain 3 potions. The second time, you get to mark any circle for free. And the third time you mark any circle for free and get their coins, which are usually 6 coins, which is a huge boost towards winning. The only other things to mention, again, is that the masteries require you to get like 5 or a certain number in a certain column to get, and then they get you bonus coins. And then also, the only other thing to really mention is charms, which charms, there's one charm that gets you 3 more potions, because again, potions are very valuable and very useful. And the rest are specialties for accessories, weapons, or armor, which get you 2 points each for every one of those you have already earned. Plus, they have their basic points that they get also for just completing their rows as well. Is there anything I missed, or is that basically the whole game?
I think that's pretty much it.
So you go through 10 rounds, and then you count up points. And that's literally the whole game. All right, so Lynn, I'm going to start with you for some negatives. This is a pretty standard roll and write. You're rolling. It's got a way to mitigate the dice. You're filling in circles. You're completing orders. You're collecting cards. Almost not really set collecting, but you're card collecting. And I forgot to mention, at the end of every round, the cards rotate 1 space clockwise around the table. So cards that you have will be going to your opponents if you do not complete them. When you complete a card, you replace it with another card from the deck face down, and then after they rotate, they get flipped face up. Mm-hmm. So you don't know what that card is until it rotates. And you play 10 rounds and see who has the most points. Mm-hmm. So Lynn, give us a negative for Merchants of Magick.
I personally find that it has too many options for me. I get overwhelmed with too many options. There's
a lot going on.
Yeah.
You also so you had also said it's not just the large number of options; it's the fact that each column has a specific dice that you can use for it and specific numbers for each circle. Yeah,
it's all there's too many numbers. My brain does not compute. numbers.
All right, so this is something that is very specific to you, but maybe specific to other people as well. If you are the kind of person, or you play with the kind of person regularly who gets overwhelmed by lots of options like this and lots of numbers like this, literally on a number sheet, it's a sheet full of numbers, you might want to consider that. Now, Lynn has an issue with this. I did not. I had no problem with this. So this is something that is going to be very specific to individuals.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. For negatives, for me, there's okay. This is I'm kind of grasping at straws here. There's a lot of randomness here. Now there are ways to mitigate the randomness with the potions, but sometimes, I mean, you're going to have a game where the D12 just keeps coming up high numbers because it's a die and it's random, and you'll have to spend a ludicrous amount to bring it down to some of the things in the column that requires the D12 only have like 2 or lower, or 3 or lower, and having it coming up nothing but high, you're going to need a ludicrous amount. If every round it's like a 10, 11, or 12, you're going to need a ludicrous amount of potions to bring that down. Now, there are lots of ways to get potions, and most games this should not happen. You should occasionally get a low number on the D12. I'm just throwing this out there that with the super randomness, you will have games on occasion. It hasn't happened to me yet. It's just something I can possibly foresee that could be frustrating. This is me grasping at straws because actually I quite like this game and I don't have a lot of negatives to it, but this is a possibility. It could happen. So I did want to throw it out there that with the super amount of randomness, you could have a game where your D12 is rolling nothing but high numbers, and that could be very frustrating for trying to get some of the enchantments with lower numbers. Like, for instance, as an example, the Dragon's enchantment requires a 2 or less. Also, the Elite Armor requires a 3 or less.
I think there's one... Isn't there one that it's a D12 and it requires a 1 or less?
There's none. There are some that require a 1 or less, but those usually have multiple dice on them. Okay. Those are a little more likely to come up or be able to use potions for. For instance, there is a 1 for the arcane column for everlasting, which that could be either a D10 or a D12. Therefore, you have more chances of getting a 1, but. You could also get a 2 or a 3 and then use a couple potions for it. That's not a big deal. There's also a 1 in the elemental, a 1 or less in the elemental column. But again, with that 1, that requires a D8, D10, or D12 to use. So that's a little more likely to get a low number and then use some potions or even roll a 1. You got to pay attention when you get those 1s on the D8s, D10s, and D12s, though, because if you're looking to try to get one of those things and you roll a 1, it's like, get it, fill it in, because they're so rare. But again, similarly, there's some high numbers on the material side, and again, if you're only rolling low numbers with those, sometimes they can be a little tough too.
With
the plate armor.
The plate armor, you need to use potions to get the first one.
Yeah, so the plate armor, the first one on it requires an 8, and it can only be gotten on the D6, which means minimum. If you got a 6, you need 2 potions to get that 8. But if your 6 is never coming up, like a 5 or a 6, yeah, that could be a little frustrating too. So yeah, that's why that's my negative. And I'm guessing you're agreeing with me since you're coming up with more situations. All right, Lynn, give me another negative.
I don't know if I really have another one.
So you just had that one really big one?
Like I was super pumped to try this, and then I was just like, oh, that's a lot of numbers. Okay,
so the numbers, well, because you were super pumped to like it because you do like roll and write games.
Yeah.
But you were like the large amount of numbers and the large amount of specific combinations of things, which this column can only use certain dice, and that's what overwhelmed you. Okay, fair enough. Now let's go to positives then. I'm going to give us a positive.
I like that you have where it's not just like where the cards that you can fulfill, it's like in front of you and only you can fulfill them. It's not like a common area, because then you don't have like someone fulfilling something that you were like, oh, I could have gotten that too if I only went first, Right,
because they do rotate, and they do rotate to your opponents, but you can't fulfill them at the same time as an opponent, and that is really cool. So that is a cool mechanic. I'm going to go with the production on this. I quite like the art style of all the equipment. I think the art, I'm going to just randomly grab and show some pictures of some cool items. The art of the equipment is really nice. I love all the different interesting items and cool, colorful artwork they have for them here. I'm just showing a few out. But yeah, I also really like the artwork for the in addition for the equipment, I like the artwork for the sponsored adventures. I don't know why I can never seem to remember the names of the fact that they're called sponsored adventures. I'm going to show, and I'll show all of them. There aren't that many, but they're really cool. I like their artwork. They're really fun. Also, production wise, the fill-in papers are just papers. That's not a big deal. The card quality is good, but not like it's not linen finish. It's not the greatest thing in the world. It's the artwork specifically that really makes them stand out for me. But the thing that's my favorite component of all of these components is the chunky wooden potions. I'm going to just show another one up here again. I love these. These are great. These are my favorite component in this. Also, the dice are nice, and I like that it does come with some pencils. 4 pencils is okay by me because we usually don't play more than 4 players for most game nights here. So those actually work pretty well for our game nights. I had one more of the customers to show there. I think I got them all. But yeah, for the production overall, I would say really good. Love the artwork. Love the chunky wooden potions. Thoughts?
Yeah.
Okay. Your turn for a positive.
Okay, so even though there's a lot going on, I do like how the sheet is arranged. I think it's arranged nice and symmetrical.
It's very logical.
And it's got everything you need on it, pretty much, except for like a turn order. There's nothing that has like the turn order.
My next big plus is I love that even though there's a lot of randomness in this, which was one of my possible negatives, I love that the potions let you mitigate that. And there's a lot of ways to get potions. So the first thing is every time you fill in and complete an item or an enchantment, you get a potion. And there's a lot of items that only require 1 die to complete. Backpack requires only 1 die. Scroll requires only 1 die. Spear requires only 1 die. Staff, sword, these all require only 1 die to actually complete them. There's a lot more that also require only 2 dice. Some of the more complicated ones will require 3. But if you can quickly complete 2 of those on your turn, that's 2 potions. That can be great. And then in addition, the first time you fill the order of your sponsored adventurer, you get 3 potions. And then also one of the charms, it's called Glamour Potion Supplier, gives you 3 potions instead of 1 for completing it. And it also, again, only requires 1 die to complete. It needs a 4 or less on either the 8, the 10, or the D12. So there are a lot of ways to get potions, and the potions are fantastic for mitigating the randomness. It gives you a feeling of a lot more control over the tactics of the game when there is a fair amount of randomness in a roll and write game. Your turn for positive.
I don't think I have any more.
Okay. I'm just going to throw out there that I really like the mechanics of how you look through the dice and be like, okay, I want to use this die for this column. I want to use that die for that column. I want to use potions to alter my dice. I want to use some of these to get extra dice this turn and figure it out because you're looking ahead and you're like, okay, she's not going to be able to complete that item and it's coming to me next turn and I've got half of the things I need. I got the item, but I don't have the enchantment. I really want to get the enchantment. Let me get the enchantment. Oh, but if instead of getting the enchantment, I get this circle filled, I'm going to get the energy mastery card. And that can be really interesting. Can be really interesting to debate towards what's more important, what's going to get me the more points. I found myself at one turn on the last game we played really debating between getting fiery and elite armor. And I was like, oh, what am I going to do? If I get fiery, I'm going to get this fiery item right now, which is going to get me 6 points, and that's a lot. But if I get elite armor, well, how much armor do I already have? Oh, I have 3, and that's going to get me 6 points also. But then I noticed that completing fiery gets you 1 point on its own, while elite armor got you 3 points on its own. So I was like, oh, I have to go for elite armor. And it's very interesting to debate that and try to figure out what's going to be most advantageous during different turns and different positions. I really enjoy that. Mm-hmm. And you said you're basically done with then?
Yeah.
Did we cover it all basically?
I think so.
All right. So in which case, I guess we're going to go to our final ratings now. Lynn, how many stars out of 10 are you going to give to Merchants of Magick? Because I know you have talked about that you like the end game, but obviously the overwhelmingness of the beginning of the game. I'm wondering which one's coming out on top.
When I have most of the circles filled in, and therefore my options are diminished.
Your enjoyment rises?
Yes.
So, well, you just won the last game we played of this. I'm wondering if the end game is enough to overcome that and still give you a positive rating. Positive rating being anything 6 or above is basically positive.
I mean, like, I wouldn't never play it again, but I don't want to play it all the time, and I would have to be like in the mood, like.
Okay, so how many stars?
I guess 6.
Okay, so 6 is like, well, you kind of like it, but you get, yeah, like I you said. Yeah.
It's like, I want to like it.
Okay, so you do kind, you like, but, you like enough of it that it overcomes the negatives.
I like the aesthetic.
Okay, and you like the end game.
Yeah.
But the overwhelmingness holds it back from being higher for you.
Yeah.
So you're still positive, just not super positive. You're like a little bit positive. Is that fair? I'm gonna go significantly higher because actually I really like this game a lot. I have found myself thoroughly enjoying Merchants of Magick, and again I think this is going to be very much a personal preference thing. So I'm going 8 stars out of 10. I think this game is absolutely fantastic. I get a elemental joy out of figuring out what dice to use to finish what item or enchantment.
And you do it out loud.
I can't help it. It's so good. I get a lot of joy out of it. So yeah, so it's going to be 6 stars from Len, 8 stars from me. So that's 1 thumb way up from me, 1 thumb a little up from you, basically. It's tilted a little up. Well, 6 is still somewhat positive. So there you have it. We did enjoy this game. I can definitely recommend this game to you. Can you recommend this game to people, or maybe under certain circumstances?
Yeah. If you're not overwhelmed by many options
and by many numbers,
yes.
By lots of numbers. All right. So that's I think that's pretty important to say though. But I would say if anything that we talked about sounds really fun and interesting to you, I would recommend this game to you because I thoroughly enjoyed Merchants of Magick. And this is one I'm going to want to play in the future, which is why I'm glad that you said you will play it, just not all the time. So there you have it. If you enjoyed this review and tutorial of a game and you'd like to see us do more like it, be sure to give it a like, share it on all forms of social media, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Board Game Captain. That's Captain spelled with a K on YouTube. And until next time, game on.